And welcome to the August 10th, 2021 Prior Lake Springlike Watershed District Board of Managers meeting. Our first order of business, would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So our next item on the agenda is the public comment period, and since there are individuals in the chamber this evening, is there anybody that would like to speak at the public comment period? I guess I would. Go ahead. So if you would, sir, if you could please go up to the dais, the stand, you turn on the mic, please. There's a little button at the base that'll go from red to green. It'll tell you that the mic is on, and then if you could please state your name and address for the record, please, the way we work it.
And if it's on green, it means it's good, right?
So is it green?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Wesley Steffen. I'm currently the president of the Springlike Association. We currently have 170 members. Membership has grown over the years, from a low back in about 8 years ago to what it is today. So we added 20 new members last year, so we're really happy about that. One of the things we did last year was we went back through our bylaws. And if you look at our mission statement is pretty much to educate and unite users, residents, and users of the lake in a common cause of lake preservation and education. So, along with improvement as far as the lake goes. I really appreciate what the board has done, or the district has done, as it pertains to improving the water quality. I'm a new resident to the area. I've only been on the lake for 2 years now, but they tell me that the water clarity is the best it's ever been, and I really appreciate that. The alum treatment, the carp removal, I know Shauna's been doing a lot of work with that. We helped with stocking with the bluegill this year. That was a great experience. Thanks, Maggie. And along with the things you've been doing with the curly leaf pond leaf, or the curly leaf pondweed, that's a mouthful. These things are all appreciated. But unfortunately, I guess in the middle of July, a new finding was the Eurasian Milfoil. And I appreciate the steps that the board took to immediately get somebody out there to look at hand pulling the milfoil that was found in about 13 spots. But unfortunately, what the DNR found and what Blue Water Science also found was more than what they expected, especially in 3 areas, one area being very close to the marina, and 2 other areas on the west side of the lake. So we had our own board meeting last night. We'd like to, I guess, extend an opportunity for us to work with the water district to see what we can do to implement next steps, and also to look at some of the financial considerations that go into that. So I thank you for your time, and
great. Thanks for coming up, Wes. Thanks for all the positive comments. There has been a lot of work done by staff and previous boards over the years to give you that good water quality and all the other fish stocking efforts, all that stuff. So there is a lot of effort. We appreciate when somebody comes forward. We don't have many people that come forward, so thank you. And I think we have been made aware of the fact that there is an issue, and I believe it's fair to say that I think we'll end up talking about this further. Maybe not this evening, but in the future. So, thank you, Wes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to approve our agenda, and Joni, I think you've already alerted me. We're going to pull off item 4.2, correct?
Mr. Chair, that is correct.
Nothing else from you then, Joni? Any of my colleagues? Any other changes? Kurt?
I have a question. Is Camille coming at the next meeting for the intern presentation, or isn't there going to be one?
Manager Hennis, unfortunately, Camille had another commitment this evening, and Janae is in Europe right now. So our intent is to have them come to the September meeting and present at that time.
Seeing nothing else, I would entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Well, for God's
So we are on to our programs and projects update.
Okay, well, we did get a little bit of rain the other day, so the water levels did rise slightly, but not very much. We are still almost a whole foot and a half below the outlet of Prior Lake. We're at about 901.1 feet. Springlike is also very low. That has stopped outletting, so there's no flow between Spring and Prior at the moment. Boat inspections, just we'll do these every month if you want to keep hearing about them. We've got about 1,500 inspections that were done in, that's supposed to say July, and we only had one boat that was found with any plants on it entering into the lake, and that was on Fish Lake. It was just coontail, and it was removed by hand before entering. And then there were actually 28 times that boats were found with plants exiting the lake, which is to be expected, as you know, the lakes have weeds in them, but they were all removed. A few of them required a little bit more what they call decon, and I just asked what that was, and I guess that's having filamentous algae stuck on the boat and the trailer, which takes a little bit more time, so the inspector helps them pull a little bit off, and then they have to take it off and remove the rest on their own. But other than that, there weren't any concerns or issues at all throughout the month. The eyelids update, as we mentioned last month, we had some things we wanted to tweak. So we updated the speaker, updated the level of the speaker and the speaker wires. We tightened the unit so that it wasn't as wobbly. We think that might have been causing some of the video to go off because it thought it was sensing movement. We cleaned the device and removed a nest, and we rotated the sign so that it's easier for boaters to see. And we fixed some programming that was also causing it to record video of just nothing. So I think we're getting there and kind of getting it up to speed. And there were 170 launches that were reviewed, and there were no violations, and only one boat from out of state. There was a lot of videos with people looking at the unit trying to figure out what it was. So it's always a good thing. So and again, there were some videos that showed weeds on the boat and trailer after it came out of the lake, but nothing going in. As Wesley mentioned, we did unfortunately find milfoil on Springlike during the aquatic plant surveys that Steve McComas does during the summer. He originally found 12 locations of milfoil, and we had spoken with him, and he thought that was the majority of it and that there wasn't going to be a lot more, so we had come to the board asking if he wanted us to move forward with trying to hand pull it since there wasn't a lot of it out there. And unfortunately, I mean, we agreed to go forward with that, but they did find a lot more than what he had thought. So while they were out there, they simply ran out of time, that there was too much that they couldn't remove in the day that they had estimated, and they thought it could take, I mean, a rough estimate, I'm like, well, would it take 10 days or 2 days? How much of hand pulling would it take? He thought maybe a week of hand pulling. So both him and Steve McComas and the DNR thought it just was beyond the state of pulling, and that it wouldn't be effective because it's already fragmented so much that it's going to reseed. And eradication it's just not likely, but we wanted to try and see if that would be kind of a simple way to pull out all those plants and reduce the spread, at least the frequency or the speed of the spread in the future. We did also post a sign at the launch stating that there is milfoil now in the lake, so people should see that. So the question is what we're going to do now. As Wesley mentioned, there are a lot of questions. We haven't had to do this really before, so one of the things that it's just, you don't necessarily have to answer the questions, but, like, does the Watershed District want to start treating milfoil? Now, we've had milfoil in many other lakes. In Prior Lake, we did try treating it in the early 90s for a while, and then we stopped after a while because it didn't eradicate it, but it just kind of stabilized. And so what Steve McComas thinks with his experience is that Springlike isn't actually very conducive to heavy milfoil growth. So he thinks that it would probably react like Lower Pryor has in the past, where it might kind of boom for a few years and then it would kind of stabilize and not get out of control, because he's done studies in the past and it just doesn't have enough nitrogen, I guess, to support heavy growth. So with that information, in addition to that, we also, most of the milfoil is growing within 150 feet of shore. As a district, we haven't treated within that shore, that line. That's typically been the responsibility of the landowners, so we've got that to consider too. But also, milfoil doesn't affect water quality or ecology, so that's been our justification for treating curly leaf in the past, is that it affects water quality during the die-off, and milfoil is more of a navigational and recreational hindrance. So we are in the process of creating a rapid response plan and vegetation maintenance policy, and so this has kind of sparked a lot of questions of how we want to proceed in the future, how the district wants to manage or not manage plants. So I'm not trying to say one way or the other, I'm just putting the facts out there, because we as staff are going to want feedback also when we're putting together these response plans and maintenance policies. So if you guys want, we can talk to the DNR and Steve McComas and the herbicide companies to see what it would take to try to manage this milfoil, or do we want to just step back and say it's not our problem? So anyway, just kind of looking for some guidance on what we found. So I don't know if we want to open it up for questions or how we want to.
Well,
just maybe
we
discuss
always
it
do,
for
at
a
least
little bit.
for this group. So yes, Kurt, you're.
I would like to appeal to the rest of the board of managers to look at the last item, to talk to the DNR. I'm a big fan of Steve McComas. I'm an unabashed fan of him and Blue Water Science, and maybe a herbicide treatment company, and look for guidance and some suggestions. Because now that we found more than we thought we were going to find, and we couldn't hand pull it, I think the problem has notched up at least one level. So I would suggest that.
Anyone else? Just wait. Anybody else? Seeing none? Anything? Steve?
Yeah, Jamie, do we know when this Eurasian milfoil showed up on Springlike? Is there a chance that it's been there a long time, and because of the better water quality, this is part of the result of that?
Well, yeah, so it's a good question. We don't know how long it's been there, because this is the first time we've found it, but we do suspect that it's been here for at least a few years, and we do also suspect that the improved water quality, could have caused it to grow faster and spread more, because since the alum treatment, that's one of the successes, is we've found a lot more diversity, or we've had a lot more diversity of vegetation the most we've ever found in the recorded history. Just last year, I think we had up to 13 different species, so I think it probably definitely, contributed to it.
Yeah, I am noticing a lot more native aquatic plants in Springlike. One thing which I hope was not detected in this analysis, no zebra mussel so far on Springlake.
Nope.
All right, thank you.
So the only thing, Jamie, I would clarify. So we were in process to actually develop a rapid response program and also a vegetation. So we've talked about that. Clearly, this dovetails or provides a little more urgency to maybe do that for us to figure out what our policy will be with respect to those. And maybe this question then goes to Joni. Where were we at with the timing on trying to move that forward with all the other stuff we have going on? Right, that's the smile, yes.
Mr. Chair, actually, we have put together a outline of the rapid response plan that actually Jamie and Shauna and I are going to be reviewing on Friday. Shauna is really doing the heavy lifting on this and putting together the draft report. I can get back to you in terms of what the deadline is on that, in terms of when we were trying to do it, but probably another couple of months before we'll have that plan in place. We do now also feel that originally we were going to try to have a draft of the vegetation policy to you next month, but we now believe that it would be best to develop that concurrently with the rapid response plan. So once again, probably the vegetation policy may be a couple months out before we'll have a draft to you.
Would it be possible to just even have this as an interim where you're starting to share some of that with us, just because we have a more urgent request at this point to look at it then next workshop?
We will bring that, we can have that discussion this week and see if it makes some sense of whether that we can break out segments and share insight as we're developing it.
Okay, so, because Kurt, I'm gathering you were interested in trying to make a decision on something at this point, and I'm sort of reluctant to see how it fits with what we were doing and where we're going to land with respect to what we do or don't do with respect to some of the plants at this stage. So that's why I'm a little hesitant to go jump on something today.
Well,
I'd like to move it forward in a workshop.
Yeah, no, that's fine too. I'd like to eventually move it forward too, but this came as a big shock. This knocked me on my heels when I heard about it, and I guess what I want to find out is it really important that we try and get ahead of this stuff? Can it really start mucking things up down the road? And if it can, I'm more than willing to take a look at being aggressive and doing some action. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and that's why we were actually, I think, moving forward with some of these other items to figure out what we were going to do. And I think it did come from staff, even just as we had then cleared up the water in our lakes, we were expecting we were going to have an explosion in plant growth, or a significant increase is what they had shared with us, and that we were going to end up having to deal with it because we would end up hearing about it. Not quite in this fashion, and not disappointed that it's this beast, but it is what it is. So yeah, I know I use the beast term again. To me, the invasives, they're all beasts. They shouldn't be here. I know. Thanks, Steve. So I don't know. That's sort of where I'm landing. I would rather start having these conversations to develop a policy. Kurt, that's me. But any of you other guys, Bruce, Frank?
I just have a question. Is there Eurasian Milfoil in Prior Lake? Is
Yes.
there? And what are we doing there?
We haven't treated since the early 90s. It has kind of stabilized and it hasn't taken off. And so most of the stuff that they do find is within the 150 feet of shore. So if a landowner has an issue with it, they would be required to treat it.
Okay. I'm supportive of looking into this, see what else we can do, with, following up a little bit more.
Okay. Frank?
Yeah, I'd like to look at it more methodically, as unfortunately the sacrifice is time.
Yep.
It takes additional time to do that. Raking weeds this morning, yeah, there's a lot of them out there. There's no question about that, and there's going to be more. But I think we need to go about this in an organized fashion to the extent we possibly can.
So, and actually that brings up a point. If I recall, the first time we sort of heard about this to deal with the Springlike issue, my recollection was that really part of the reason that we decided to jump on it to almost attempt to give us a pause, or a little bit of a pause perhaps, was that in early August, it's too late to do anything with that plant. Is that correct? Do I recall that accurately?
Yeah, the term was in August-ish is when it
Sure,
fragments,
right.
and I'm thinking everything's a little bit early this year, so it sounds like it all has already fragmented and spread.
Okay, so it might not be that there was anything further that we could do at this juncture anyway. That's sort of what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Well, that's what we'd like
Or-
feedback from, is if you want us to look into what the options would be, but for treating it, if that's something that the board wants to get into, just based on, all the things that we mentioned. It's nothing we've done in the past. It doesn't affect phosphorus.
Yep.
So kind of, in order for us to build the vegetation policy, we need to know how the board stands on managing a plant that's just a navigational and recreational hindrance. Anyone
else? Kurt?
I mean, we got an estimate for $11,000 to do a chemical treatment on this, and if it would really, maybe not knock it out, but really knock the Eurasian water milfoil for a loop, I consider that money well spent, because this is not good, to put it lightly.
At some point, it might be appropriate. I'm reluctant to do anything. I'm not willing to vote on anything this evening for me without having actually dug into some issue and to decide what it is. But I'm supportive of pushing this forward and having it as a workshop item and start having these conversations to figure out what it is and collaborate with our colleagues. You asked for that. I would assume we've always done that. We've worked together on these projects, and we know you guys will dig in as much as we would, so I would assume that'll continue, and invite you to our workshop, to participate in this. I don't know if there's anything else. Anybody? I think that's it then. Well, Steve, go.
Yeah, from my history on Lower Prior Lake, there is Eurasian milfoil there, and Steve McComas has indicated that that's not enough to make a big problem. It doesn't grow in water deeper than 15 feet. And, the shallow areas of Springlike would be more affected by it, but it all depends on how big of a problem it becomes and what we can do in the short term.
Thank you. Next item. Are we still on programs, projects?
All right, a little bit of a carp update. So we are right now in the middle of baited box trap season. As we talked about the last meeting, those spring traps that we had, the Anderson and the push trap, those just didn't perform as well as last year because we had those low waters and they're attracted to those rushing waters in the springtime. So we've been focused in on these baited box traps, and we're roughly about the same removal rates that we were last year. So it's, we're trying a few new things, trying to pull the baited box traps later in the morning rather than waking up at 2 a.m., which has been working out fairly well. Still waiting for the really big baited box trap pull, but we're doing really well. I just wanted to kind of go over where we are right now, since this will be the last time I'm presenting this, and how far we've come, and how well we're doing this year. So if you want to go to the next one. Here, you can just hand me the clicker. So on Upper Prior Lake, we started off pretty high when we first got that initial CARP grant in 2015. So we did our estimate in 2016 and have been slowly moving those numbers down. We did have that big pull in 2017, which brought it pretty low, and we're making progress. So we brought that population down less than half of where we started, which is fantastic. But the carp biomass estimate right now is still at 211. And for frame of reference, the DNR suggests going below 100, and we have a very aggressive goal of getting down to 30. And so in order to get to that, it's going to require another 60,000 pounds of removal. And we're slowly ticking away at that. Before, we'd have to wait for those one big seines every few years, and right now we're making slow progress every year with all these different other methods. And when we're translating that to what it means to the lake, the amount of carp that are in there right now, that's 1,200 pounds per year of internal loading of phosphorus. And that's a lot. So this year so far, since January 1st, we've removed 13,500 pounds of carp from Upper Prior Lake. What that translates to is 220 pound per year reduction in internal loading. So that's a big win for Upper Prior Lake. So if you go to the next one, oh, sorry, I forgot I had the thing. And then for Springlike, we started off kind of high at 243. We had a couple of nice removals. We got it down to 24.5. It was right where we wanted it to be. But at that point, if you guys remember, we didn't have that ferric barrier, and we didn't have the desilt pond barrier. We weren't attacking those carp where they're coming from and where they're spawning in that ditch 13 sub-watershed. So now we're doing that, and we've closed off their reproduction a little bit, and we're starting to see those numbers slowly tick down. What we really need on Springlike is one more big seine. So, last year we had a 7,500 pound removal, but we need like that 30,000 pound. And right now, because Springlike is a little bit larger than Upper Prior, we have roughly about the same carp biomass. It's 225 kilograms per hectare. But what that translates to is we got to remove like 100,000 pounds of carp from Springlike. It's a long way to go, but, and again, we're just making those small ticks away with all these different methods that we're using. So as of January 1st to today, we've removed 8,815 pounds from Springlake, and that translates to a 245 pound year internal load reduction. Now you'll notice that the numbers are different for Spring and Upper Prior when we're talking about internal load reduction. That's because of the littoral zone and the amount of damage carp can do. So we factor a whole bunch of things into that number. And so then I just kind of wanted to bring that back to what that means. So last year, if you remember, I did this cost-benefit analysis. I took all of the money that we've ever spent on the carp project since I started in 2015, and I took that and I annualized the amount of phosphorus reduction just from Upper Prior Lake, because at that time Springlake had bounced back up, and I felt like we should push that aside. So, but I'm including all the removal work and all the costs for Springlake as well. If I put all that together and figure out how many dollars per pound of phosphorus or with carp removal, like what does it cost? It's still right around the cost of a alum treatment. It's still one of the most cost-effective tools. So what I did is I took the removals that we've had from January 1st to the present, which if you add Upper Prior and Springlake, it's 466 pounds. So let's say, for example, we have done these removals, we've gotten those loading rates down, and it pops right back up next year. So I wanted to know, just for this year, if we have just this amount of phosphorus reduction on internal loading per year, and we've spent $85,000, how much is that per pound? So that per pound is 183. Now, I do anticipate that this reduction is going to stay low because we've blocked off those spawning areas. So it's going to be a multi-year reduction just from that 85,000. But if it jumps back up for whatever reason, it's still more effective than the ferric chloride system. So I just want to point that out. Like, it always seems like we're spending all this money, and gosh, we haven't had that 30,000 pound removal lately. But it's still really cost effective. So I just kind of wanted to kind of bring that message back before I left. And Jeff will be coming back to the meeting in September and talking to you about updating our integrated pest management plan. Because now that we've had a low water quality or low water flow year, we're going to change things up and be a little bit more dynamic going forward. We're not going to waste time spending money on installing those spring traps if it's a low water year. We're just going to focus in on electrofishing. We're trying to find the most cost-effective method based on what we're seeing that year, and then making sure that we're still being very cost-effective and getting the results we want. Any questions on carp?
So Maggie, wasn't it in your contract you couldn't leave us until you actually achieved the goals of the carp reduction? I mean, come on, you're gonna miss this too much, Maggie. Just kidding. Now, Maggie, the only thing I would like, on those two charts, could you pop back to that for a sec? Because you ended up talking about some of the other items that I wonder if it'd be fun to see here just for going forward then, for if Shauna's going to be taking this over. When we closed off the nurseries, when we do the bluegill stocking, and maybe just even if they're asterisks or something at these years, because as we continue to see this, I'd love to see what we think that might do versus what we're pulling out with all the mechanisms that we're doing to remove the carp themselves. What are we doing to damage the population growth? So anyway, that was it. That's all I had. Anybody? Steve, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Maggie, you won an award with this program, and it's very innovative and a lot of learning as you go along. So, I see a lot of good things have happened, and a lot of good things are going to happen in the future. So, thank you.
Thanks. Anything else, Joni, on updates, programs, projects? Yes? Okay.
All right, so this is our first year doing wetland monitoring. We kind of got the idea and the different procedures from the Wetland Health Evaluation Program, and that's like a volunteer program that Maggie was actually part of for quite a few years, so it was really fun to have her walk us through that. This will help us understand the impacts that different land use changes and other human disturbances have on our wetlands, like ecosystems and biodiversity and water quality in our wetlands. So the way we're monitoring the wetlands is we're basically assessing the numbers and the different types of bugs and plants that we're finding in each of the wetlands. So we chose 5 different spots throughout the watershed from north to south. They're actually pretty well spread out. We did 2 days of macroinvertebrate sampling, so just different bugs. We built those traps, set them out, came back a few days later, and now we're in the process of IDing them and giving them a score. And then along with that, we did vegetation surveys just earlier last week, I think. And similarly, we went out to the field and just kind of took a survey of all the different plants and the different communities that are there. The different plants and bugs, they're sensitive depending on the, they're sensitive to different levels of human interaction. So they're good indicators of the water quality there in the wetlands. And so once we kind of finish IDing and giving them a score, we will be able to compare the health of those wetlands throughout the year. If it's something we want to continue, could become like a volunteer program. Maybe it's just something that we do as staff once a year. Yeah.
So if I'll add on to that, it really has been pretty interesting for us to understand. Staff was looking at one of the wetlands that was recently just constructed, and it really did not have the biological health that some of the natural wetlands have, with the goal that hopefully over time that nature will work its magic, and we can then see if the health of these constructed wetlands can get back up to get closer to a natural wetland as well. But it is a good opportunity. Once again, these are really valuable resources for our district, and for us to start to get a handle on the health of our wetlands and do some minor, this is a very low cost expenditure. I think it's $2,000 to do this effort in our budget. But I think it does provide us some really valuable information in terms of just the health of the wetlands and, once again, their impact on water quality.
Bruce?
Yeah, I'm glad you're doing this. I think it's important. I know some cities or other watershed districts are monitoring their wetlands for water quality for phosphorus, because that can be a major contributor to area lakes. So I know, Kurt, you mentioned that to me too, about HAB did a treatment to a wetland or pond in Savage. So if it can be detected what the water quality impact is for some of these wetlands, they might be high in phosphorus. And when we get a heavy rain, when that comes again, that flushes into the system. So that may be a major source that we need to pay attention to. So thanks for doing this. It's a good first step.
Yep, thanks. Anything more on this item? or on the programs projects? We're done? Okay, awesome, thank you. So then we're going on to our Maggie acknowledgement, item 4.3. So go ahead, Joni, I'm assuming you're kicking this off for us.
Mr. Chair and managers. So Maggie's been with the Watershed District for the past 6, maybe almost 7 years. And, you know, she really has been a major contributor to a lot of the successful programs that this district has achieved. Just to note a few, as she was just talking about the accelerated carp management program, she was a key player in the Upper Watershed Blueprint framework development. She really has been the heart and soul of the Farmer-Led Council and really keeping that group making really innovative strides in collaborations with our farming community. She was the project manager for the Sutton Lake Outlet and really kicked off our program for monitoring easements and inspecting our easements to make sure that district easements are being complied with, just to name a few of the things. So we just really want to take this opportunity to thank Maggie for all that she's given to us and really want to wish her the best in her future endeavors.
Thank you, Maggie. We're gonna miss you. I mean, you know, I've only been on now for 3 years and change, but I think it was the CARP program where we challenged you to come up. It's like, okay, go back. What do you got? And you came back and you went to work to go find some new creative ways to go after these carp, and we are making a difference. And like you stated, I think that was a great, almost perfect example, I think, of the work that you've done and I've been exposed to in my time here. Is that, you know, you've always gone away, been open-minded to come back and do something better, different. It's been greatly appreciated. I also got exposed to the work you did on the Farmer-Led Council, which as soon as I'd heard about that, I think everybody knows here that I wanted to make that an official liaison position and want to be part of that. And as I've observed that, I think that's really good, important work that I don't know that we get complete credit for it. It doesn't get as much attention here, but I've seen what you do and how you lead and participate in that adventure. And so I'm gonna miss you, Maggie. You did some good work for us. I appreciate it, but you need to go scratch an itch, whatever's important to Maggie, and I wish you all the best and come back and visit us once in a while. Anybody else? Frank?
Maggie, I haven't been able to work with you very long, given that I haven't been on the board, but during the period of time I have, a couple of things just stand out. One, you just gave a report, and your whole body and soul is into the report, and she's got such a pleasant way of making complex things fairly simple for people like me, a newbie, to understand. And the really the coolest thing is the excitement that you can see on her countenance when she talks about this new opportunity and her ability to use her education, her degree in education for the first time, I think, aside from all the education you've been giving us for 7 years. There is only one group, however, I found that is going to be very happy that you're leaving. It's the common carp.
Bruce?
Well, Maggie will always be known as the Carp Lady. She's going to take that title with her and wear it proudly wherever you go. I think we gave her a T-shirt, didn't we? So, yeah, I'm surprised she's not wearing that tonight. But I worked with Maggie for many years when I was at the city of Shakopee and on the board. And I echo Frank, but your professionalism and your sweet disposition and how you handle things with calm and confidence is something I've always admired. I wish I could do some of that. So, but anyway, we wish you the best. I've enjoyed working with you. You did a great job of filling in when we needed you to fill in, and just wish you the best. We're going to miss you.
Kurt?
Well, I've been with the board for 8 years, and Maggie, you've been with us 7. And I just want to say your performance, your work has been outstanding, nothing short of terrific. And I'm going to miss you personally and professionally. And it's a sad day when I heard that you were leaving us. Not surprising, because when you came to us, you were working on your master's, and when you got that, I thought, well, you know, but thanks for the years that you did give us, and you've performed admirably in sometimes some very difficult situations, and I think we both know what I'm talking about, and look forward to seeing you sometime again. Please stop out here if you get out this way. Tried to talk you into moving to Prior Lake, but it didn't work, I guess, for Watershed selfish reasons. But it's been a terrific experience. You're a terrific person. God bless you.
Steve?
Yeah, Maggie, I met you in this little room over here 7 years ago. I was on the CAC, and Diane said she had a new employee, and I thought, well, I hope she's a good one. And sure enough, she really got a good one, because your work has been excellent. I've worked with hundreds of people in my working life, and if I had one that could be a model for all great employees, it would probably be you, because you get the job done, you treat everybody well, and you're just great that we had you here for the time we did, and we're all going to miss you a lot. And I know you miss us too, especially on April 1st.
Thanks. Thanks again, Maggie.
Yeah, can I say something?
Please do.
You guys make me want to cry. Oh my God. I just wanted to say thank you to, like, especially the staff and the board. This has been such a great experience. I can't imagine working with better people. You guys are my friends. Like, I love it here, and it was so hard to leave and to make that choice. And the board, like, I've learned so much from all of you, whether I'm working with Bruce in the beginning and learning so much from you there, or even Frank. Like, I just learned a lot from all of you. And Carl. God help me, Carl. When I started, I didn't know anything about permits or anything. You're so patient walking me through stuff. Just thank you to everybody. This has been such a great experience. I am very thankful to work with such a great community and board and the lake associations. It's just been wonderful. So thank you, everybody.
Okay, so our next item then, we have the manager presentation, liaison updates. Manager Loney, you have a particular item here too, sir, so.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, whatever you are. But I just wanted to announce that we did have a joint meeting with the CAC on July 29th. I thought it was a very good meeting. I think we're going to have an annual meeting. The CAC has gone through some transition, and if you listen to the presentation and the minutes, the amount of work that they've done the past year has been admirable. They've really stepped forward and really helping us out, and they're got some ambitious goals for next year, which we really appreciate. And I think we have 10 CAC members now, I believe. So that's really good. We really retooled and got some really good people. And I do really firmly believe that the real difference between watershed districts will be how active and how beneficial their CAC is to the board. I think that can be the thing that makes a watershed district good or better. So anyway, appreciate the meeting we had. We had a lot of good discussion on items. We're in shoreland. Restoration, some education things. We talked about eyelids. We talked about muck digesters. We talked about a liaison to the legislature and a whole host of things. So there's a lot of good ideas out there, and how we hone them in and get them to make them to fruition is something I'm looking forward to. So that's just my update. And I think I speak for everybody on the board. I thought it was it was a good meeting for all of us.
Thanks, Bruce. So I've got one item too I'm going to add, that the Watershed participated in the Chamber Fest, and it was actually a good turnout. But I ended up having an opportunity to go chat with Jim Slater from the Slater Realty Group. And Jim, I try and bring these back because I'm always the tough guy up here, right? But I'll bring it back when I hear good things. And Jim Slater said Man, I think he's one of these lone people that actually watches some of these public events. And Jim said, man, I've been watching what you guys are doing, and I'm really impressed. You guys have done some great work over the last years. The lakes are really in good shape. And he said, how can I help? How do I get to participate? And so we started talking about the fish stocking effort, where we're getting some contributions from our partner organizations out there, the Springlike Association, Prior Lake Association, the Rotary. And Jim said, I'm in. So Jim Slater and the Slater Realty Group said he wanted to contribute $1,000 to our fish stocking efforts, which I assume will be, again, maybe split between some of the bluegill to reduce our carp population, and probably the walleye stocking also occurring this year. So again, Jim, another shout out. I give a shout out to all my partners, those folks who help us contribute to our effort. So thanks, Jim, and to the Slater Realty Group. So that's it. Anybody else have anything? Seeing none, okay, we're moving on then to our consent agenda. So typically, this is where we pass en masse those easy things unless something gets removed. Gentlemen, anybody want to remove anything from the consent agenda this evening? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second and a third. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Thanks, everybody. So now we're on to the treasurer's report. Bruce, you are back up, sir.
Okay, if you looked at the amount of documents we had, this is our retooling of our financial reporting. You have your invoices for the month. You have a listing of Visa transactions listed in there. Then you have our budget all the way to July 31st, both the general fund and the implementation fund. And I do a little bit on looking at what we have in the bank. And right now we have over $2 million in the bank. We have $936,000 in restricted funds. So we really have $1,078,000 available cash at the end of July. CLA also did a cash flow analysis looking at the end of the year, both in numbers and then also in a chart and graph. So you can see by the end of the year, we will probably be around 1.9 million, a little bit less than what we have today on cash on hand, but that's still pretty good. And I think it's a conservative estimate based on revenues that we may have are coming in. But anyway, so you can see that we're good on as far as the cash flow for the year. One other item I did check into, again, I do monitor, like, what do we get for CDs and that, and I can check, and it's still 0.01% for good CDs. So it's really nothing, but at some point we might want to check into that as may come up eventually. That's about it. Any questions?
Thanks, Bruce. I had one, but I can't remember what it was. I wrote it in here, and I don't remember what I was thinking at the time.
Getting old, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I am. Yes, I am. Thankfully. I'll take it. Every day I wake up, I appreciate it. Anybody else? Any questions for Bruce? Seeing none, then we're moving on to the upcoming meeting event schedule. Bruce, since you're the liaison, do you want to announce this then? I'll change of pace where I read it. Or
The CAC will be meeting on Thursday, August 26th, 6 to 8 p.m. in the Parkview Conference Room.
Kurt had a question.
I see you've got 6. Usually it's 6:30 to 8, isn't it, Bruce?
It's,
Manager Hennis, it is 6 o'clock, 6 to,
well,
You-
we did
usually it's
6 last
6:30
time
to 8.
because of the
Wait,
lunch.
6:30 to, well, you get the past president, he'll tell
you
you.
are correct. I think it was changed to 6 o'clock for this last month. And
Joint.
my apologies, you're right. It is 6:30 to 8. So thank you for catching that, Manager Hennis.
Thank you.
Nice, Kurt. All right. Oh, you do plenty of times. That's it. Boy, this is pretty good. This is like 6:50. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. unless you
Motion
want
to
stay here for a
adjourn.
while. Okay. We do have a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 That motion carries 5-0. Thank you and good night, everybody.